Hello friends, welcome back to Liz's Reading Corner, or welcome if you're new here. I'm Liz and I like books, and welcome to another new releases video, or new release books that have caught my attention. These books are all being released from the 30th of March to the 5th of April. We have 7 books for this week, so it's going to be a relatively short video this time. And I guess we'll just jump into them. So the first book I have for you is The Last Session by Julia Bartz. This is a thriller, mystery thriller. This story follows a social worker named Thea who gets a catatonic patient in her psychiatric unit that she works at. She swears that she knows the patient, or she sees the patient. She's seen the patient somewhere before. The patient, she thinks, has some link to a traumatic event in her past. So when the patient is no longer catatonic, the patient claims that she doesn't remember whatever the events were that led her to being catatonic and being admitted to the psychiatric unit. And then very suddenly the patient is just taken away and she doesn't see her again. Thea is determined to find her, and so she follows a trail of clues back to this retreat in southwest New Mexico, and there she finds what seems like a cult, or what is coming across as a cult. I'm not entirely sure, obviously, without reading the book, but it just very much seems like a cult. So the couple who own the retreat get their attendees to participate in increasingly intimate exercises, and Thea finds herself closer to not only finding her missing patient, but also finding answers for her harrowing past. It seems really interesting. I love like culty type books, so this is one I definitely want to read sometime this year, and it is expected to come out on April 1st. Next is Where the Axe is Buried by Ray Naylor. This is a science fiction, dystopian fiction novel, and it is set, I guess, sometime in the future. This is, I believe, his second book. So his first book was The Mountain in the Sea, which was his debut novel. I might just read the synopsis for this one because there is a lot there, and I just don't know that I could do a very good job at synthesizing this one. So it says, all systems fail, all societies crumble, all worlds end. That was what got me into this. I don't normally do science fiction, but I saw that and I was like, I'm intrigued. In the authoritarian federation, there is a plot to assassinate and replace the president, a man who has downloaded his mind to a succession of new bodies to maintain his grip on power. Meanwhile, on the fringes of a Western Europe that has renounced human governance in favor of ostensibly more efficient, objective, and peaceful AI prime ministers, an experimental artificial mind is malfunctioning, threatening to set off a chain of events that may spell the end of the Western world. As the Federation and the West both start to crumble, Lilia, the brilliant scientist whose invention may be central to bringing down the seemingly immortal president, goes on the run, trying to break out from a near impenetrable web of Federation surveillance. Her fate is bound with a worldwide group of others fighting against the global status quo. Palmer, the man Lilia left behind in London, desperate to solve the mystery of her disappearance. Zoya, a veteran activist imprisoned in the Taiga, whose book has inspired a revolutionary movement. Nikolai, the president's personal physician, who has been forced into more and more harrowing decisions as he navigates the Federation's palace politics. And Nerlin, the hapless parliamentary staffer whose attempt to save his republic goes terribly awry. And then there is Krotov, head of the Federation Security Services, whose plots, agents, and assassins are everywhere. It seems amazing and exactly the kind of science fiction or dystopian fiction that I like to read. And I like that it is touching on sort of like AI and the potentials, or the potential uses, I guess, for AI in the future, but also the problems that we face when we rely too much on artificial intelligence and technology. That one is expected to be published April 1st. So next is A Family Recipe by Carolyn Hayun. I apologize for butchering that. I've tried a few times. I can't seem to get that one right. I apologize. The synopsis says, Duc Tran, the eccentric founder of the national Vietnamese sandwich chain Duck Sandwiches, has decided to retire. With the help of the shady family lawyer, he informs his 5 estranged adult children to get their inheritance, they must revitalize rundown shops in undesirable, old-school Little Saigon locations across Houston, San Jose, New Orleans, and Philadelphia within a year. The only one without a shop is the bachelor's son, but if he gets married before the year is up, the inheritance goes to him. Each daughter is stuck in a new city they don't want to be in, battling gentrification, declining ethnic enclaves, messy love lives, and struggling to modernize their father's American dream. The son wonders if he wants to marry for love or for money. As Duck's children continue to work, family mysteries begin to unravel along the way as they learn the real intention behind the inheritance scheme. So it says the book is about rediscovering one's roots and different types of fatherly love, familial legacy, and finding one's place in a divided country where the only commonality among your neighbors is the universal love of sandwiches. Like I said, it reminds me very much of healing fiction. I don't know if it would actually fit into healing fiction, but it certainly seems like it would, and it is expected to be published April 1st. Next is arguably one of my most anticipated reads for this year. I am so excited that this book is coming out. Oh my gosh. It is A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett, and this is book number 2 in the Shadow of the Leviathan series. I adored book 1, The Tainted Cup, and I have been just dying to read book number 2 ever since I finished book number 1. And I'm glad that I didn't have to wait as long as like the people who read The Tainted Cup when it first came out, because I probably would have been really sad. So The Tainted Cup is kind of like a Sherlock Holmes-esque style book, and it follows Anna, who is basically Sherlock, and what's his name? Dinios. I can't believe I forgot his name. And Dinios Cole, who is basically like Watson. The difference is Anna is a recluse because dealing with people is just too much for her, and it is just better for her if she stays at home and just deals with and works on the clues from home. Dinios is what do they call him? So Din is an engraver who has like these scents that he can smell, so he can remember everything about a place just by smelling that same smell. So he doesn't use the same smell more than once, because obviously that would ruin his memories. In the first book, they are trying to uncover why people are spontaneously growing trees from within their bodies. And in this one, the synopsis says, in the canton of Yarrowdale, at the very edge of the Empire's reach, an impossible crime has occurred. A treasury officer has disappeared into thin air, abducted from his quarters, while the door and windows remain locked from the inside, in a building whose entrances and exits are all under constant guard. To solve the case, the Empire calls on its most brilliant and mercurial investigator, the great Anna Delabra. At her side, as always, is her bemused assistant, Dinios Cole. Before long, Anna's discovered that they are not investigating a disappearance, but a murder, and that the killing was just a first chess move by an adversary who seems to be able to pass through warded doors like a ghost, and who can predict every one of Anna's moves as though they can see the future. Worse still, the killer seems to be targeting the high-security compound known as the Shroud. Here, the Empire's greatest minds dissect fallen titans to harness the volatile magic found in their blood. Should it fall, the destruction would be terrible indeed, and the Empire itself will grind to a halt, robbed of the magic that allows its wheels of power to turn. Din has seen Anna solve impossible cases before, but this time with the stakes higher than ever, and Anna seemingly a step behind their adversary at every turn, he fears that his superior has finally met an enemy she can't defeat. This really reminds me, so The Tainted Cup reminded me of Sherlock Holmes, but this one reminds me of the Sherlock Holmes, and I think it's the Moriarty story line. It looks amazing. I'm really excited. Like I said, adored The Tainted Cup, and now A Drop of Corruption is coming out on April 1st, apparently. Next is The Coven Tendency by Zoe Hannah Makuta. This is a YA horror fantasy, and it is all things I think YA horror should have. There's witches, there's magic, there's madness, there's apparently a lot of death, and I think from the sounds of it, it would be a really good, I could be wrong, when I read this I guess I'll find out, but it looks like it could be a really good introduction to horror. So the synopsis says, just like her mother and her mother's mother, 18-year-old Vanity Adams is destined to lead a lavish life under the patronship of the museum, someday taking her place as its premier necromantic spectacle and the centerpiece of their weekly soirees thrown for the city's elite. But until that day, Vanity and the other young witches of the museum is isolated from the outside world and purged of her magic. Magic being particularly unstable for teenagers and often leading to antisocial conduct, mood swings, bloodlust delusions, and most concerning, a habitual violent obsession with one another. To all of this, Vanity thinks, well, whatever. Better than being confined to the sanatorium with the less fortunate witches, imprisoned in a chemically induced coma as her blood is harvested to make world, the city's favourite designer drug. At least she'll be dead someday. There's always that, and at least the museum has Arrogance, Vanity's twin sister who just might remember how to do magic, and who just might be where our story begins. So, very mysterious, and like I said, it seems really like a really good starting point for YA like young people to get into horror. So it is expected to be published April 1st, and I will definitely be trying to get my hands on this one. Second last, we have Cat's People by Tanya Guerrero. This is contemporary fiction, but I think from the sounds of it, this is another healing fiction type story. We follow Nuria, who is a single by choice barista who hates the crazy cat lady label and is a member of the Meow Yorkers, who is a group of Brooklyn citizens who take care of the neighborhood stray cats. So I'm assuming it's like the trap and release, and I guess they feed them and that sort of thing and look after them. And on one of her volunteering days, she starts finding post-it notes from a secret admirer at the spot where her favorite stray lives, who is a black cat named Cat. And apparently he knows who the notes are from. So there is a list of people who they might be from. So it says, other notes from Colin, a best-selling author and self-professed hermit with a weakness for good coffee. Are they from Lily, a fresh out of high school Georgia native searching for her long-lost half-sister? Are they from Omar, the beloved neighborhood mailman going through an early midlife crisis? Or are they from Bong, the grieving widower who owns her favorite bodega? When Kat suddenly falls ill, these 5 strangers find themselves connected in their desire to care for him and discover that chance encounters can lead to the meaningful connections they've been searching for. So yeah, it seems like a really like cute healing fiction. It really reminds me of like same but different, but it reminds me of We'll Prescribe You a Cat, not just because it's got cats. Anyway, it is expected to be released on April 1st. Next is The Lost Souls Meet Under the Full Moon by Mizuki Sujimura. This was first published in 2010 and is now being translated into English, which is why it's being published now. The translator is Yuki Tejima. It follows 4 different stories of 4 different people who are trying to contact the dead. So they arrange for an appointment with someone called a go-between, and the rules are that the reunion can only happen at the full moon, the deceased can only be summoned once, they can refuse, and the service is entirely free. So this actually reminds me of Full Moon Coffee Shop, to be honest, because it's kind of like contacting the dead, and there's like very specific rules as to how it can happen. And this one is also being released in English on April 1st. So those are the books that I am interested in that are being released this week. Have you seen any of these? Will you be reading them? Do you have any books that are being released that you're interested in? If so, I would love to hear about them. If you enjoy my videos, please like, share, and subscribe. I absolutely appreciate everyone who watches my videos and who sits through all of my rambling. And yeah, thank you. I will see you all in the next one. Bye.